Hello, this is Paranormal Girl, and today I'm going to talk about the Seal of Solomon. Solomon the Magnificent, or the Just, the third king of Israel and Judah, the son and successor of David, reigned for 40 years. Solomon received the throne of an exhausted father and an ambitious mother. His reign was a short time of inner peace and greatness. Solemnly anointed after David's death, he appeared at the beginning of his sovereignty, both powerful and tolerant. The pious king walked according to the ordinances of Yahweh, while sacrificing on the high places, accompanied by his people. However, in Gibeon, it is in the sanctuary of the one God that he went, and it is to Yahweh that he offered burnt offerings. There was still the tent of meeting that Moses had made in the desert, whereas the ark had been moved to Jerusalem. This sacrifice was followed by a dream in which the God of Israel appeared to him, offering to give him anything that he liked. Solomon asked only spiritual favors. It is the wisdom he begged of heaven. The wish was granted, and all Israel enjoyed it during most of his reign. Wealth and glory was given to him in addition. The fame of his wisdom surpassed the most distant borders. People came to see and hear all the land known there. The Midrash Rabbah, or the Quran, the Old Testament, show us King Solomon, builder of the first temple of Jerusalem. As a sage, author of proverbs and songs, a great expert of the secrets of plants and animals, but not as a magician. It seems that a reputation as an astrologer will be made from the 2nd century BC, and in the 1st century Jewish historian Flavius Josephus presented him as having written 3,000 books of exorcisms and incantations against diseases caused by demons. The first book of magic that was actually attributed to him is the Testament of Solomon, written in Greek, between the 1st century and the 5th century, possibly in Babylon or in Egypt, the oldest manuscripts dating from the 5th century. It was translated into Latin, Hebrew, Arabic, and only 7 centuries later. Over the centuries, various texts of magic were attributed to Solomon. The Bible tells us that Solomon let himself be influenced by his wives, and like them, began to worship idols and deny his God. This is probably what has strengthened his image of a magician helped by demons. The latter say the commentators had buried books of magic under the throne of Solomon, and after his death they spread the rumor that there was only one to look beneath the throne, the books containing the science by which Solomon had subjected men, geniuses, and winds. Here is the reputation of high magic made to Solomon that began to take shape. Afterwards, countless exploits were attributed to him, supernatural and divine. In medieval legends, Jewish, Islamic, and Christian, the Seal of Solomon was a magical ring that King Solomon was supposed to have possessed. The magical ring simultaneously gave him the power to command demons and genies, or to speak with animals. The Quran, without mentioning explicitly the seal, makes a large part of these legends on the powers of Solomon. In the tales of the Arabian Nights, we can find an explicit reference, an evil genius imprisoned in a copper bottle sealed by the ring in question, could not get out for 1,800 years. The power of the seal had kept him there all along. The evil genius had finally come out when Corto Maltese recovered the ring, unless it was Gollum. In short, people only lend to the rich. The sulphurous reputation of Solomon comes from his use of forgotten technologies that the people took for evil spells. There are countless Sufi teaching stories which involve demons and spirits. Very often the seal of Solomon is mentioned or described in them. In some versions, the seal is made of iron and brass, set with 4 jewels, with God's name engraved. In latter versions, the ring simply carries what is now called the Star of David, or a hexagram, within a circle of Oribus, a snake biting its own tail, a symbol of eternal return. Other versions see it as a pentagram, or as other, more complicated figures. In an Arab story, it's claimed that the demon Saka deceived one of Solomon's wives to steal the ring. Saka would have reigned in his place for 40 days, 40 years in some versions, while Solomon was wandering miserably in the country. However, subsequently, Saka having thrown the ring into the sea, this one was swallowed by a fish that a fisherman caught, and was served to Solomon. As a punishment, the Shaitan Sakir had to build a large and beautiful mosque for Solomon. However, the oldest of these stories date back more than 1,000 years after Solomon, and the story of the fish in particular has a strong resemblance to the tale of Polycrates of Samos by Herodotus. There is no smoke without fire. But why we attribute all this magical knowledge to Solomon, making him the biblical counterpart for the great Hermes Trismegistus? Why is it him and not his father David or his great uncle Moses who is believed to possess these shamanistic gifts? Many stories and medieval drawings show how the palace of Solomon was built with the help of the jinn and the angels. It seems that the palace contained such wonders that no one could have imagined they were coming from, well, could be science. Everything happens as if powerful Solomon had inherited skills much previous to his time. It seems he used a flying machine, built on his orders. A lightning sensor dominated the Temple of Jerusalem for spiritual and technological aims. This first temple in Jerusalem, Solomon had built in according to a plan and specific indications, and probably also by using forgotten technologies that in the eyes of ignorant people passed for magic. As with the jinn, do not forget that the ancient land of Judea was the birthplace of several species of giants. Jews even claim that all the giants who once populated the earth come from their land. Many feats impossible yesterday are now commonplace. Solomon was an insider of Isis, and he received from the Ark of the Covenant an electric shock that woke his supernatural powers. These are latent powers that we all possess, and that are awakened by mystical illumination, or even by electronic methods much faster, a calculated boost of the central nervous system. Solomon received this initiation before the death of King David, his father, and there is easy reason to believe that David himself had received it in the same conditions through the effect of the ark. David reigned over Israel after his victory over the Palestinians, now called Palestinians. The more things change, the more they stay the same. With his sling, David threw a stone on giant Goliath. It is therefore the Jews who intended the Intifada. David was a nephew of the patriarch Moses, who was, of course, the first insider of the tradition of Israel, thanks to the lightning and the Ark of the Covenant on Mount Sinai. This whole story has a strong smelling of high-tech and virile energy. Steven Spielberg did not make a mistake in his film Raiders of the Lost Ark. And in my next video, I will talk about virile energy, and it actually comes from the ancient Atlanteans.